welcome back. Steve AZ here. Well, if you watch my previous videos on replacing the timing gear and the seal in the front cover, you'll know that we've come to the point where now we have to time the engine and put the distributor back in. We've lined up the dots on the gears on the cam and the crank, and now I have to bring the engine to top dead center to install the distributor. I marked a line here on the flywheel damper. There's a really faint scribe mark, and a lot of people will get it confused with the little notch on this crank that for the timing is, but it's this little faint mark, and if you'll put some paint on it you'll see it easier. Anyway, here's where a lot of people get confused, is with this notch right here. You might be able to see it. Yeah, it's a black hole basically from what you're looking at. Anyway, that is not the timing mark. Okay, now a couple ways to do this to bring it to top dead center is you can put your finger in the number 1 spark plug hole here. All these plugs have been removed, by the way, for the moment. Makes the engine easier to turn over. And you can roll it around with your other hand or wrench and feel it come up on compression. There's also another way that's kind of fun to do. And I'll set the camera so you can see it. What you can do is you can take a paper towel and get it wet, wring the water out of it, and put it down in that spark plug hole. Just wedge it in that hole. Don't force it all the way in, of course. You just want a tight seal. Now go back down to your crankshaft, put your socket wrench on there, and rotate it around until that compression of the cylinder pops the paper towel out. Then you'll know you're on your compression stroke. And there you have it. Okay, now that you know that you're on the compression stroke, you can take a screwdriver or long, thin something, and a soda straw works better if you have one. You don't have to worry about it too much, but getting bent or caught. But anyway, as you rotate the engine around, you'll see your screwdriver start to come up. Now what you're looking for is to get it up to top dead center, which is over here. Let me move the camera. I like to set the timing right here at 10 degrees before top dead center. You need to look at the emissions label on your vehicle. See what the proper degrees to set it at. But for this case, what we're trying to do is get it to top dead center, which would be the 0 up here. You can't see it in the camera, I don't believe. This is 10 and this is 0. What we want to do is bring that timing mark up to the 0 mark. That's pretty darn close right there, I think. Just before the engine cylinder starts to go back down. Now your screwdriver will be at the top of its travel, and if you turn it any more, you would be able to see the little screwdriver that I put in the spark plug hole start to retreat down. But you don't want that. So right now, we know we're on the compression stroke, and now's the time to put the distributor in. What we want to do is face to the distributor rotor to the #1 spark plug. And I marked a spot on the side of the distributor where #1 spark plug would be, and that's what we'll do. We'll put it in. Okay, for clarifications, I'm going to show you the distributor. And this is the #1, where the #1 spark plug would be on the cap. It's also marked on the cap as #1. So I made a mark here, and this is where I want the rotor pointing when I put the distributor in. Now, in order to do that, you have to line it up with the oil pump, and this rod here, along with the cam gear. This has to hit the cam gear so it'll turn the distributor and the oil pump as well. So it's a process where sometimes, and they slide in at an angle where when you start your distributor, you might have to start it back a ways. See, can't show you at this angle. And then as it goes in, it turns to the proper position that you want. When the gear slides down over the cam gear, it'll rotate. It'll rotate your pointer. Anyway, when you get this thing just pretty darn near close to that right there, pointing to #1, and it goes all the way down flush with the block, then you know you've got the distributor in properly, and you can just go ahead and turn the crank over by hand and make sure the rotor goes around. So let me get repositioned here and put this distributor in. These two screws holes here are in the proper position almost. They should be more like this if I could get it that way. Like that. And that's for 87 and on. If it was an 86 model and beyond that, it would go like this. But the two screw holes would be this way. But for right now, this is the way it's supposed to go. Seem to be having trouble getting the oil shaft, the shaft into the oil pump, but it just now dropped in, and I've got my #1 lined up, and I'm really satisfied with the way it looks. Okay, now I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit. See if I can put the clamp in there. While I'm down here, I might as well reconnect the electrical. spout connector right here that you hear about. It is designed to set the timing. You pull this plug out and then you don't have the computer interfering with the timing, trying to adjust it itself. Then you plug it back in, let the computer take over. Okay, I believe I'm to the point where I just need to put everything back together now and figure out why I did not want to crank over when I turned the key switch. Once I get that done, I do believe I'll have a truck that runs. I almost forgot. This is where we started from. I am turning the crank now and watching the rotor go. If you remember the first part of this video, I was turning the crank manually and nothing was happening. That is a nice sight. Well, I have everything put back together, and as you remember, it would not start when I turned the key over to crank it, and I devised a way to start it up. Now, I'd be less than honest if I told you that I did not already start it once, because I have. Because I was trying to determine why it would not crank over with the key switch. Well, the way I started it is, first of all, I turned the key switch to the on position, which I'm going to do now. And having done that, what I then do I go over to the battery and I hook a lead to the positive terminal. This is the hot wire that should be hot coming from the switch, and it is not. So this way, when I jumper it here, it will check the solenoid, and it will also check the starter if it turns over and starts, which it does. Then you know your solenoid is good and you know your starter's good. So let's start it up. Okay, that's how I did it until I discovered what the problem was on starting it. Because what I did here is I took the solenoid and the starter, I was able to eliminate them as being a problem. And I know this wire here, which is the hot wire from the start position on the key switch, goes back through a starter relay, a safety interlock on the clutch pedal, and then up to the start position on the key switch. So it's one of those three, the safety interlock, the key switch, or the relay. And then what I did is I got underneath the dash and I noticed that my clutch pedal had a lot of free play in it, and it has a bushing and an arm that needs to be replaced that have been worn out a long time ago, which was allowing a ½ an inch of free play in the pedal before it engaged the clutch. And so the clutch had to be all the way to the floor before it would engage the allow the allow the safety interlock to make power from the key switch. So then what I had done is I had a floor mat in there in the cab, and it wasn't going all the way to the floor, the clutch pedal. So when I pulled the floor mat out, I was able to push the clutch pedal all the way down, and everything started from the key switch. So my safety interlock was not working at the time because the clutch pedal was not being depressed fully because of the worn arm and the bushing. Now what I'm going to do is another video where I replace this arm and bushing and show you just exactly what was causing my problem, because the clutch pedal was not going all the way to the floor. Obviously the floor mat was getting in the way, but still it needs to be replaced. It should not have made any difference with the floor mat. And so that is the end of this video. I've gotten it started. I'm going to do some code checks on it. I'm not particularly happy with that very fast idle at the start. And then I'm going to go ahead and replace the clutch pedal arm and bushing, and maybe even the arm that's worn going to the clutch master cylinder. I'm not sure yet. Until the next video, this is AZ Steve 711 saying bye for now.